All right. Well, today's topic is from survival mode to connection, nervous system informed family support at bedside. Dr. Becerra Kulki, I hope I pronounced that correctly, integrates her background in occupational therapy with advanced training in public health and epidemiology to support maternal and family well-being through a sensory and nervous system informed lens. Her work has included maternal and child health research at Kaiser Permanente, focused on health equity and family outcomes across the life course, with over, oh, sorry, my screen just with over 20 years of experience across pediatric, early intervention, school-based sensory integration, and community mental health settings, she brings both clinical and systems level perspective to her work with families. She is also the founder of Mom Sensory Magic, where she partners with organizations to provide education and professional development on sensory informed approaches to support mothers, caregivers, and young children. Please help me welcome Dr. Becerra Kolke.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. Happy Monday. I know you're still waiting for your Monday coffee to hit. I know it's hard getting back into work mode after a nice weekend. And it's also hard to follow up after that poll that mostly everybody wants to meet in the afternoon. So I'm just like, all right, I have a very motivated group, I'm sure. So my goal is to that this training feels like a chance to connect and learn something new, and I have at least one thing that you can apply this week or next week. So thank you so much for showing up, being here, and bringing your brains today. I'm going to share my screen. So I won't be able to see you. I can't see your faces, and you should be able to see my screen. So if anybody has any questions, I'll make sure, or I won't make sure, but maybe Jennifer will help me make sure to monitor the chat. So from survival mode to connection, nervous system informed family support at bedside. To tell you a little bit more about myself, even though Jennifer did a nice introduction, my name is Tracy Becerra Kolke. I actually like to go by Dr. Tracy. And I tell my students, because I am a professor at California State University, Dominguez Hills, that the reason why I go by Dr. Tracy is that I've sort of detached myself from being known as my identity connected to my father or my ex-husband. So therefore, I am Dr. Tracy. And I'm a mother that I like to say that is my first identity before anything else. I am a professor at California State University, Dominguez Hills. I teach in the Department of Occupational Therapy. I am an occupational therapist, so I've mostly worked in with children, but I've also worked with in maternal health. I used to work at a early Head Start, supporting families in the prenatal period and also in early childhood. And so I started my private practice as an occupational therapist, and I have this certification in sensory integration. And what Jennifer mentioned too was that I do a lot of trainings, a lot of them being in preschool, but I think it's so important to get to caregivers and moms for them to get to understand their own sensory processing, which we're going to do today. So I think I want to get to know more about you as well before we get started, and we'll get to that. So this is my private practice, Mom Sensory Magic. I have my handle for anyone that would like to follow. It's right under my logo at Mom Sensory Magic. And what we're going to do today is understand the family's experience, recognize how stress, sensory experiences, and the nervous system affect parents' ability to process information and connect during bedside visits. This is an image of myself. I don't know if you can tell I look so different, but this is me right after giving birth, collapsed asleep, tired after, pushing so hard. Um, so the second objective is understanding your own sensory system. So increasing awareness of personal sensory and nervous system responses. And then the final one is practical bedside strategies to apply nervous system informed strategies, sensory regulation, and communication. Okay, so this is where I want to get to know more about you. Um, so what I'm going to ask is maybe your name. So I have number one here, your name, years that you've been connected with LA Best Babies Network, and what is one thing in this room that might overwhelm a mom? And then I think one thing that I don't have here is whether or not you're a mom. So I think that's also helpful because I think there's different layers of how you can connect to this information. But it's nothing to say that whether you are a mom or not a mom, I think you'll benefit either way. So if you can think about your name, how many years, what is one thing in this room that might overwhelm a mom, and whether or not you're a mom. So I'll give you a minute to think about that. What is the one thing in this room that might overwhelm a mom? And it can be short. I think there's plenty of us. We don't want to take too long, so maybe just a word or two. Okay.
Could you see the chat box, Dr. Tracy, or will you need?
Let me see if I can get there.
Yeah, maybe they're probably taking some time to write the responses, but
Do you want us to type it in or do we just randomly go?
I was hoping to hear your voices.
Oh, okay. I'll go first then. My name is Rocio, and I've been working with LA BBN first five for 7 years already. And one thing that overwhelms me as a mom. Well, I have a kid, but looking at this picture is all the cables. Like there's so many cables, so that would overwhelm me. Yeah. Oh, hi, my name is Melanie. I've been with the Libyan for 3 years. And I'm a mom of two. And then thinking about it, I feel like what overwhelms a mom would be I feel like that's a contractions machine. So, like looking at the contractions, how they're going. So, I feel like that
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Villegas. I've been working with LABBN for about 15 years. And I think what would overwhelm me is probably just all the machines in general that are in the room.
So I know some of you
Hi.
posted, but go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Sorry. I'm in the same office. My name is Alexis. I've been with Long Beach Memorial for 2 years as a hospital liaison. I think overall, what overwhelms me personally is the Toco machine to make sure that baby's okay, tracing the fetal heart rate monitor. And I am a mother of two. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to share verbally? Thank you for those who posted in the comments as well. Yeah, we can do both. If anybody wants to do it verbally, it's nice to hear some voices. But yeah, lots of experience in the hospital or with LABBN. Seems like there's a double connection there. And lots of monitors, and the temperature in the room is one of them. I heard cables. Um, yeah, so overstimulation, feeling exhausted. Great, thank you. If anybody hasn't shared, feel free to add in the comments, and I'll, go back and check and see what else we have, who else has commented. So I think that's a really nice introduction. Thank you. So So part of the purpose of this training, and I give it to other occupational therapists, I've given it to moms, I've given it to even moms with kids with special needs. But primarily, what I was trying to do is like when moms go into this period of their life postpartum and even beyond, there is so much that's happening that I don't think we stop to really think about. So I have this quote called Mothers Understood. It was adapted by one of my mentors who actually does sensory processing and sensory integration therapy for children, but her quote is children understood. And I thought, well, what about mothers? Mothers can be understood too. And then I also defined this word matrescence to describe the process of becoming a mother. And it all starts in that period right after birth. I'm just trying to see here if there's anything else. So, just a personal story, because this is an image of myself. I was able to really gain insight, and the purpose for this training is through my own journey, and understanding why I was going through certain experiences. So being misunderstood by others, and finally getting to know myself and realizing that it felt like a new self, including a new nervous system experience that evolved from becoming a mom. And I was trying to figure out like why do we sense things so differently now? Why do things feel different? And while I was doing my research, I was finding that obviously play a big role into this transition in life, or this transition, this postpartum transition. And hormones have a lot to do with different transitions in life. There's adolescence for, our young ones who are going through puberty. There's a hormone transition there. Postpartum period is a hormone transition. There was a time in my life where I was doing research with transgender individuals. So those people were going through some hormonal transition themselves, changing their gender identity. So I just felt like hormones had a big role in what was happening with our mental health and then also our sensory processing, and obviously stress as well. So just a quick connection to hormones and mental health. There's a sharp decline in estrogen and progesterone. As you know, these play a crucial role in regulating mood, the way you think, the way you feel, thinking and emotions. And they drop postpartum, but they do increase over time. And usually, the way that that's indicated is by the first menstrual cycle. So, usually, you tell someone they're not going to have a menstrual cycle until the hormones balance out, and that's an indication that now your estrogen and progesterone are now back online, because those are the ones that help with the uterine lining and the shedding. But that actually is delayed even more for parents who are breastfeeding. So the hormonal rebound is delayed for breastfeeding parents. So I even remember thinking, well, while I was breastfeeding, I breastfed for a year, that like, why do I feel like I'm in this fog? Like I'm not happy. And then realizing that estrogen and progesterone were so low, and the happiness was different. It was a different feeling of happiness. It was more of like, I'm content. I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing, but I also wasn't thinking about the world outside of my house or outside of my baby. And I think hormones really have a lot to do with that. I think it's the way that, humans are adapted to really focus on their baby, or the survival of their baby right after birth. Then another bullet point here is women experience birth as psychologically traumatic. So even though there is a physical trauma that comes with tearing, it comes with cesarean deliveries, there's also a psychological trauma that we don't talk about as much, I would say that my own experience felt like traumatic. And to think that most women in this world go through this experience and don't really talk about it as traumatic. I felt like I was the only one, but that's not true. It's psychologically traumatic. And then, as you are probably very familiar with, are these postpartum depression numbers, 13 to 14% nationally, but they're also higher internationally. I think 20% or so. And then oxytocin is another hormone that plays a role in the postpartum body that rise in response to breastfeeding. So as oxytocin increases, the estrogen and progesterone there's a inverse relationship between oxytocin and estrogen and progesterone, which is also related to why breastfeeding parents don't necessarily get their menstrual cycles until they stop breastfeeding. But it is helpful for maternal and infant bonding, obviously. So it is a very stressful experience. So here are some images of a mom laying on the bed, a mom with all these monitors on them, so a lot of touch sensation on her belly. People around her when, contractions come in and they have to deliver, the sensation of Pitocin actually, instigating the contractions. And then the epidural is also somewhere involved here to reduce pain and suffering, which I think is great. I think epidurals have there's a big benefit for epidurals, but I think there's also some risks. I don't think there's anything in the labor and delivery that doesn't have some risk. So stressful, as you can see in these images, lights, people, touching, monitors. You've all named some of these. So I'm going to jump into this section of the science of stress. What is stress? How does it even work? We know it from like, oh, it's Monday, it's 9 o'clock, I'm stressed, I have to get up, I have to get to work, I have to sit at, turn on my Zoom and get on my computer and get ready. That kind of stress is normal. It kind of gets our body going and gets us ready for the day. But I'm going to explain the science of stress with this image. Would you be stressed standing here? You're just standing at the edge of this forest. So I'm going to use this as a metaphor. So after labor and delivery, many mothers are at the edge of this forest, full of unknowns, not knowing what may come out of the darkness around the corner, not knowing where the path will lead. The brain doesn't understand, it can't comprehend. But the body does know what to do. So, as our evolution as humans, our body is wired to respond with stress. It's part of our evolution. So, we're going to open our eyes. We're going to make sure we listen. We're going to make sure we know where our body is so we're not running into trees. There is this state of stress so that I can get through this forest. And in this forest, we can think about it as a threatening situation. It's threatening. We don't know if something's going to come out. And then after birth, there are many unknowns. So, like learning the baby's cues and the cries and the feeding and the sleeping challenges and the physical recovery from labor or surgery. I mentioned the hormonal shifts. There's a change in identity of like what just happened? Who am I now? There's going to be new routines and responsibilities. Have to take care of a new child. Maybe there's more at home. So now I have to take care of more than one. So when things feel new or uncertain, our nervous system pays extra attention. We notice more sounds, more changes, and things that need our attention. And it's normal. It helps us watch over and protect the baby. That's what mothers are meant to do. The hard part is that after having a baby, there are not always many chances for the nervous system to relax. So there's always this, I have to respond, I have to react. There's not a lot of chance to relax. And every moment brings something new. When somebody walks into the room, they have to make a choice or have to do something new. And then it's normal to feel stressed during this time. The goal is not to get rid of stress completely. It's to help the nervous system know when to be alert and to also know when to rest. And we want mothers to be able to respond when their baby needs them, but then also be able to return to feel safe, to feel calm and rested. So when stress gets too big, When the stress happens too much, think about contractions, too big, too much, and it lasts for a long time. Think about long labors and deliveries. The nervous system can become overwhelmed. We understand that the nervous system is going through after labor and delivery, and we can see that many postpartum reactions are signs that the body and brain are working hard to adjust to a very big life change. And the next slide is an image of what that looks like. For labor, the contractions, they come, and they sort of escalate, and they come too often, and they come, with an epidural, it probably feels obviously better than actually feeling the contractions, but it does create this threatening situation that can become distressing if they happens for a long period of time. And sometimes they do happen for long periods of time. It could have been a long labor, like I mentioned. And then maybe something's wrong with the baby. The baby is born with a condition. Maybe they have to be admitted into the NICU. They're struggling with breastfeeding. That's always a thing, I feel often. They're struggling with bottle feeding. Who knew that was a thing? But that's also a thing. Therefore, the body can generate a habit. So this is a picture of the body creating a habit of being hyper vigilant, of being so aware, and also in a state of dysregulation or having an unbalanced arousal. So it's important that we understand that people need to actively self-regulate more so than ever before, and in this case, moms. And why is self-regulation important? It's good for maintaining balance and maintaining the health of our body. You can see there's arrows here of the body-mind connection. I'm sure you've heard about the gut-brain axis, that the gut talks to the brain talks to the gut. A lot of the stress that we humans feel sometimes, we don't always just feel it in our brain, we feel it in our body. Sometimes there's digestive issues involved. So self-regulation is important. It helps with our arousal. It helps us manage our stress response. And the next thing I wanted to share with you is this theory, polyvagal theory. I'm wondering if some of you have heard of it. And if you have, maybe comment in the chats like I heard of it. Yes, polyvagal theory. It was developed from the study of the evolution of the autonomic nervous system, which is what our bodies do without us really thinking about it. It regulates our organs, our heart, our lungs, our gut. And this regulation occurs without us even being aware of it. And it's bidirectional. Our brain monitors our body, and our body monitors our brain. And in this theory, it describes three different levels of managing stress, or how we feel stress. The top one is fight or flight or mobilize. Like, just, it's when our bodies feel like I can't sit, I have to move, I have to go do something. The heart is racing, there's shallow breath, there's an adrenaline surge, and the person feels anxious. That's what that feeling is this first level. The second level is safe and social. That's being able to regulate your heart rate, feeling peaceful, feeling happy, feeling engaged. And that's the picture in the middle. And the final one, which I thought was interesting myself when I learned about this, and it really explained a lot of what I was feeling postpartum, was this freeze, this immobilized, this collapsed feeling, just having no words, having this shallow breath, having fog, feeling overwhelmed. And I think this is really helpful to know when you're interacting with a mom. Are they in this fight or flight? Are they safe and social? Or are they in this stage of freeze, immobilized, or collapsed? So this is the polyvagal theory that provides the explanation for these reactions or these responses. I'm going to play a video, but I don't
You
have to double
are
check
in a
to make sure the audio's on. Here you go. Let me me share my audio. Okay, I think it's on.
You are in a constant dangerous environment, your nervous system is going to find it difficult to detect safety. So if it can't detect safety, it's going to be in the state of more fight, flight, a low threshold to react. And when you're in that state, you're going to misread other people's cues.
Right. So this is Stephen Porges. He's the one that outlined the whole polyvagal theory and really how it affects our way to connect with others. So if we're always in this fight or flight, or we have this low threshold of we're going to react if somebody talks to us or touches us or makes a noise, we're going to misread other people. We're going to feel like they're attacking us. There's a threatening situation. So in summary, after labor and delivery, a long labor, induction, epidural, cesarean birth, or multiple interventions, some mothers may appear disengaged, foggy, or not present because of the theory that I just explained. Rather than assuming a lack of interest, it's helpful to view these behaviors through a nervous system lens. The body may simply be recovering from an enormous physiological event that may need support reconnecting with safety, with sensation and regulation. Okay, working. So why is this important? So we talked about the challenge and the decrease in estrogen. So here we have the decrease in estrogen and progesterone. There's more stress, so cortisol, that's the stress hormone. Oxytocin is up. And then there's all these other things that happen, physical demands and role expectations that affect the mental health, the stress response, anxiety, depression, which can affect sensory preferences. So being sensitive to artificial sounds, lights, fabrics, smells. So I'm going to jump more into this area of sensory and how to look at sensory in our everyday environment and also how it can help us and also how we can modify things. So you're familiar with the eight senses, sorry, not the eight senses. You're familiar with the five senses, tasting, smelling, seeing, touching, and hearing. Those are the five pictures there. And then we have three other senses, which is the vestibular, proprioceptive, and interoception that I'm going to describe to you because I know maybe they're not as familiar. Maybe you've heard of them, but haven't really thought about them lately. So the vestibular sense is the ability to perceive movement due to the inner ear being activated and the position of the head being changed. So I'm going to have you do something for me with your own body. So I just want you to sit up straight in your chair, wherever you're sitting, away from a desk, just so that you're erect, using your own posture, not really leaning back, not leaning forward, but just center your body. And I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and listen to my direction. You're going to shake your head like you're saying no, left to right. You're saying no. And then you're going to stop and nod your head like you're saying yes, up and down, yes. And then you're going to pause. And then you're going to move your head like it's a bell, like you're inside a bell. Your left ear to your left shoulder, right ear to your right shoulder, left, right, left, right. Pause there and open your eyes. So what you just did is you activated your vestibular sense, which is inside your ear, and it is very isolated to your head. I'm going to show you some pictures. So just an example of how the head is moving in motherhood. Putting your head up and down when like changing a diaper, that happens often. Being in a rocking chair it moves the full body, but it also moves the head back and forth or a little bit of an angle. Going for walks or walking a stroller is also this linear movement. So it has to do with where the head is in relation to the ground, and gravity. And then I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but when moms or parents carry a baby, they sway this way. It's a very automatic feeling to do. I don't think we get taught that. People don't get taught that. It's just to do that. And why? Because it is soothing. It's soothing for the infant, it's soothing for you. People do it even without carrying babies. I've had conversations and people are sort of swaying this way. So that happens too. So that's the vestibular sense. The next one is the proprioceptive movement sense, and this has to do with information from inside our body, from muscles, ligaments, and joints that sends information to our brains. And then our brains then process this information and provides us with a sense of body movement. So we take for granted these senses because we see things. So we know when we do this with our hands, we know what we're doing because we're seeing it. But I'm sure you've had moments where you've had to like change a button in the back of I was doing this yesterday, so I remember if you have a button at the neck, let's say you have a shirt with a button, you can't see that, but your hands and your fingers can feel that and they know what to do and how to put a button that is at the back of your neck. So it's the things we do without seeing. And an example of this, I'm trying to think what we could do in our chairs. Um, So I'll ask you guys to close your eyes again. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to follow my direction. I'm going to try not to have your hands run into anything that's around you, but I might ask you to raise your hands, put your hands down, things like that. So just make sure there's not a lot of things around you. So you're going to close your eyes. And just by my verbal direction, you're going to raise your arms up like they're reaching the sky. Raise your arms up like they're reaching the sky. And I just want you to feel those muscles that are being activated, your shoulder muscles, your back muscles. That's the proprioceptive sense. So without you even seeing, you were able to do what I just asked you to do. You can put your arms down on your lap and open your eyes. So that's proprioceptive sense, things that we do with our muscles that we just automatically do. We have this awareness of where our body is, and that happens with experience. I teach when I said I teach this to kids or people who work with kids. Kids are still trying to figure out who they are in their body, so that body awareness is a big thing. But I would say it's also a big thing for women who have just given postpartum, who are in postpartum, just gave birth. They have a new body. They're having new sensations. And they're still recovering from a very physical situation. So these are some examples of proprioceptive movement sense is carrying a heavy box, lifting a baby up, carrying a baby this way, pushing a stroller up an incline. Baby wearing provides that like weight. The weight is what activates the muscles. So if we do, if any of you actually lift weights or go to the gym, any of that movement is proprioception. Interoception, this is the last one. So this is the ability to sense and understand what's happening inside the body, which is hunger, thirst, and heartbeat. And if we feel this accurately, we know what our bodies need. So I think this is another one where we take it for granted. And I think some people need to work on it. If like they don't know when they're hungry, they go hours without drinking water and they're probably thirsty and they become irritable. So it's kind of what does your body need and knowing what it needs before it can move on to the next thing in the day. So that's feeling the state of hunger, thirst, feeling pain, knowing when you're tired or fatigued, and even understanding the stress response of like, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling my heart race, my hands are getting sweaty. I get this conversation a lot with my students when they're having to present in front of people. They have this stress response. Emotional states could also be, I'm irritable. I don't know why. I just feel like I can snap at any moment. Anxiety, anger, fear, sadness, joy. So just being that, having that awareness of like, huh, I feel good right now. I feel sad right now. I feel scared right now. So sensory processing is the way the nervous system receives messages from the senses and turns them into a behavior or a movement. So think about that. I gave you the example of the forest. The forest had a lot of sensory things that involved a reaction from the human. What am I going to do? Where am I going to move? So you're hearing, you're seeing. So that's what sensory processing is. It's what we take from the world and how we use it for behavior and movement. So here are some examples of what's alerting. So I'm going to give you two things to think about. Sensory information that's alerting and sensory information that's calming. And then we're going to go through the senses as we go through those. So on the left-hand side, you could see tasting, smelling, seeing, touching, hearing. Generally, tasting things that are alerting is things that are sour, sweet, spicy, salty, crispy, cold. You might even think about like, I like those things. I'm a person that likes alerting foods. I like salty, crispy, cold. Smelling, things that are alerting are strong odors, artificial smells. That's why they say not to wear perfumes because they are alerting, maybe in a hospital setting. Seeing things that are bright, bright lights, bold colors, many colors, those are very alerting. Touching things that are rough, sticky, slimy, wet. I think a lot of those exist in the hospital setting. And then hearing something that's loud or high pitch. So I put some images here of the alerting examples in a hospital setting. So the lights that are coming from the top, all the things that are in a room can visually be alerting. The things that are taped and tagged onto patients is alerting. There's a lot of touch involved. The smell of hand sanitizer is alerting. That's like an alcohol smell. It's an artificial smell. The fabrics, I would say, the fabric that, you know, patients have to use, or even the layers of fabric that is involved behind them when they're laying down on the bed. I was in the I was in the hospital, I would say November of last year, so less than a year ago. And I was comparing a lot of my experience being in the hospital then from when I was giving birth. But then I was a little bit more aware than from the time I was giving birth. When I gave birth, I wasn't so aware. Um, there was things I was aware of. I knew it was traumatic, but I wasn't aware too much about my surroundings, which makes me think I was more in the immobilized freeze state. But now I was aware I had gotten out of my anesthesia and just thinking like, wow, this is so uncomfortable. Like all the sheets and especially the gown, it just kept moving and it would just, anyway, that's the touch. That's the tactile stuff. And then the cold water is an example, which is okay. Not all of these things are wrong. It's just saying these are alerting, just to give you an idea of what's alerting. For vestibular improprioception, some examples are being wheeled in a bed. So if you're moving a bed from one place to another, that's giving somebody a vestibular input. Or even moving the top of the bed up and down, that's giving somebody a vestibular input. Um, and I have this image of a mom breastfeeding, which could also relate it to like having to get up and back down, resting and then being alert. So there's a lot of movement, the up and down, the circular spinning not really happening unless, the beds are sort of moving around too much to get through a door. So that's what vestibular alerting senses are. Some calming senses here is in the sense of taste, smell, seeing, touch, and hearing. We have something that's warm and bland and soft texture. That's the tasting, calming sensation. Smelling, something that's low odor. I have an image here of essential oils. Seeing, so having a dim room, natural light, neutral colors, not too many colors. I have some images of here of a window, so the light coming from a window is more natural light. Having greenery around or being able to see outside on to a tree, being able to see a tree, that's calming. Soft touch, carrying the baby can feel like that. There's a soft touch involved here, or soft touch from a family member or friend. And then hearing rhythmical, low pitch sounds. That is calming. For vestibular and proprioception, a wheelchair, I mean, sorry, not a wheelchair, a rocking chair is can provide that rhythmic swaying back and forth that is calming, or some light swinging, rocking back and forth. And then proprioception, everything that involves muscle movement is actually calming. So somebody having to hold their baby and carrying that weight is calming. And then even like pushing off of the bed is calming. Any muscle work and walking, I would say. So I didn't put it in here, but vestibular and proprioception, the walking from the bathroom to the bed or the bed to the bathroom or around the floor can be calming as well. Just the movement part of it. So some of the questions that you might have answered for sensation seeking is enjoyment, creativity, and the pursuit of sensory stimuli. That's an example of what sensation seeking is. So I add spice to my food. You might have answered that way. The second one is sensation avoiding. These are deliberate acts to reduce or prevent exposure to sensory stimuli and putting effort to make sure exposures are more predictable. So having routines. And you might have answered something like stay away from noisy settings. Low registration, missing or slow response to stimuli. So it might take you more to wake up. That's just one example of how you might have answered that question or some of those questions. And then sensory sensitivity, noticing others' behaviors, distractible and uncomfortable with sensory stimuli. So I'm going to show you a video of Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore. And I'm going to ask you who's sensation seeking here. I don't know if you can hear the sound. I don't hear it. I know I might have not shared my sound again. No, it should be. Okay, so for some reason the sound isn't working, but you could see in the video what just happened. So if I can manage the video just for a second. So you have Winnie the Pooh coming in, things are normal. There's Eeyore, there's Piglet, and then we have a sensation-seeking character that jumps in, Tigger. So he's a sensation seeker. And then the character that's low registration here is actually going to be Eeyore. So you see how everybody's responsive and everybody's going. And then we have the person or the character that moves slowly, not so responsive. Then we have sensation avoiding. We have Rabbit here. And he's tending to his garden, but gets angry when somebody gets into his space and ruins everything. So that is an example of what sensation avoiding is really organizing their environment that's predictable. And I think we all have a little bit of all of these, but so just to give you a breakdown of what this looks like, and I know we only have about 10 plus minutes without getting too technical, there is a low threshold that we saw Stephen Porges get into. So the low threshold is down here. So it takes less for somebody to react. So that means their nervous system has a threshold that's low, so that anything that's stimulating is going to make that person either nervous or sensitive or be or avoid things. In this case, it would be piglet and rabbit. And then on the high threshold is that you have a high threshold where it takes more for you to get a sensation or a feeling out of it or be able to respond or react to it because you need a lot. And that's people who like spicy foods, cold things in their mouth, like a lot of movement to feel like they're engaged in life. They can't be passive onlookers. Those are our sensation seekers. The difference between Tigger and Eeyore here, even though they both have a high threshold, is that Tigger is more active about what he does about his sensation seeking. He meets his own threshold. But people like Eeyore, they may not. They're just sort of going through the motions, and then something might have happened, and they may have not even noticed it and didn't respond at all. So that's brief, and I'm going to go into just a couple characters on what you might do if you know this person, either yourself or someone you know, or some or mothers that you've interacted with. So if someone is sluggish, they could be in that shutdown mode, that freeze response. But for them to respond, you need to increase the stimuli, maybe visual versus verbal information. Movement. So if they've been in bed and been sort of in this shutdown mode, to help their nervous system come out of shutdown is movement, like getting them up slowly, maybe standing or sitting by their bed, walking to the bathroom, some gentle movement. And firm pillow support around the body. So helping with body awareness. So just the more you can put around them, the more they feel. There's more things to feel, and it sort of alerts them to know where their body is. This is also pretty important, especially after epidurals and things like that. You know, sensation takes a while to come back. Sensation avoiding help reduce sensory input. So I talked about what could be overwhelming. So this could also be happening is you want to help reduce noise. I know that some of the monitors are noisy. You can't help it. You couldn't help with light, opening the windows to get natural light versus the superficial light that's coming from the top. Having, moving predictably, be predictable, give them control. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to sit right here. Is it okay if I talk to you? So it's like asking them, can I do this? I'm going to sit here, being predictable. Voice, gentle tone, slow pacing, and simple language. So I had showed you this picture earlier. So becoming aware of all the sensory input around the mom. So knowing what that might be doing to their nervous system or knowing what labor and delivery just did to their nervous system. You want to identify sensory input that you can help with. So how to help? So the movement sense, you can help with slow supported walking inside the room, as I mentioned, offering an arm. I know there's a lot of, things that have to get cleared before somebody can move, so it's helpful to get that first. Support comfortable positions with pillows. Mom is regulated when holding and rocking the baby. So even having the baby, they can still talk to you. They can still be responsive because it's actually very regulating. Avoid sudden movements, move slowly, announce your position changes. Like I mentioned, if you have, we're talking about that with rabbit, like making sure I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to sit right here. Is it okay if we talk? Um, Touch sense, soft and warm blankets. I know there's limited type of blankets in the hospital, but if they brought something from home, maybe asking them if they have something that you can help them pull out from their hospital bag. Um, Requesting additional blankets. I think the layering of blankets actually helps. It gives that touch, deep, kind of like a heavy weighted blanket. Adjust room temperature. Someone mentioned that earlier, that it's cold in there. It can be overstimulating. Ask before touching. comfortable socks and clothing? Can I get these for you? Can I fix your gown? Like I said, I was in the hospital in November and I wish people asked me to help more. I needed help. And the more they can ask, you know, how can I help you? I would have said, can you please fix my gown? Can you fix my pillows? Can you fix, the things under me? That touch was really overstimulating for me, and it can be for other people. Hearing sense, conversation, make it brief and calm. White noise, there could be phone applications. If somebody were to say, it's just noisy here, it's just so like, because I had that experience. It was just so noisy. And I thought about why didn't I put on white noise? So if you could maybe make that as a suggestion when somebody says it's really noisy, finding a phone application for them that they could use when they need it. It doesn't have to be with you. It could be like, oh, maybe you can try this. Um, Vision sense. So dim lighting, close the blinds. If there's lamps, lamps are great. Turn down overhead lighting. Help organize clutter. Um, you walk into a room and there's just so many things out. The lunch, the old breakfast, the things. If you can help organize that, that helps visually with the overstimulation. Smell sense. So avoid perfumes. I was overstimulated by nurses' perfumes in November. I was just thinking, I thought there was a rule against perfumes, but just a reminder that I think that rule is there for a reason. It is overstimulating, and maybe wearing essential oils as an alternative. They can be more soothing. Other ways to help create a sense of safety. So don't add sensory input, reduce sensory input, protect sleep, dim the lights, lower the noise, offer water. If you don't remember anything else that I said, remember this list. Don't add more, reduce it, protect sleep, dim the lights, lower the noise, offer water, offer to help with their bedding too. And then, like Stephen Porges said, once their nervous system is in a safe place, they can communicate with you. They can have this responsive, relationship-centered communication with you if their nervous system is back to safe and social. So I think it's important to get them or support them into that so they can have responsive communication with you. And in summary, sensory preferences are very individual. It helps people relax or calm down or be more alert if you need them to to listen or get up or respond to their baby. Feel more organized. Sensory input is especially helpful when our brain is not helping. So in a state of postpartum, the brain might be sluggish, but you can support the body to respond and the brain will follow. Some sensory supports. This is a company that I like to use. I thought they were really cool because it's very focused on sensory. These could be for you. They could be for, holding them as you work or even gifting them. So this is called Lifelines. I didn't put the name here, but it's a Melissa and Doug company. If you're familiar with Melissa and Doug, um, they had that toy line. They now shifted to sensory tools for grown-ups. I call it sensory tools for moms because I really like them. And then another thing that I like to share is breathing. We also underestimate how breathing is so important. So if somebody is in altered state and they're talking really loud, or really fast, is just making sure that you're breathing. And if you're breathing, they're going to stop and breathe themselves. I think there's a mirroring that happens. So if you want to get in touch with me, I do have a questionnaire, and I know that Jennifer also has one. You can get in touch with me through my email, drtracy@momsensorymagic.com, through my website, Mom Sensory Magic, or my Instagram,